Everyone, I'm Pete Wright with LexJet, and today I'm joined by Eric Holm. Eric Holm is the Associate Product Manager with Epson, and he is the specialist and the expert when it comes to all things Epson Edge print software. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I want to thank you for jumping on today. I know we get a lot of questions in regards to the Epson Edge print software. So, wanted to take a few minutes to kind of pick your brain and get some answers to some of the questions that people have asked, and also just get a general tour of the software, kind of the layout design and where everything is so people can understand it. So, why don't we just start that? I know you've got the software open. Let's start before we get into the installation and all those other things. Let's just get right into kind of the layout of where everything is and the functionality and the tools that are in the software itself.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're looking at here is the default screen of Epson Edge Print. The workflow for this software is very left to right, top to bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and load a file and kind of take you through some of the settings. So for any printer installed, you can load a test job. So it's just a little test chart that's got some images and patterns to kind of send to your printer in case you don't have anything else available. So it's come up on the left here, and I can highlight it, and I can see its scale in comparison to the size of the paper that's currently loaded in the printer. And the printer I'm looking at is a T7770D. That's a dual roll T-series printer. So I can do things like grab the corner, scale it, shrink it, but I can do a bunch of other things on the right-hand side. So let me take a look, like I said, top to bottom. Here is just an overview, the job info. I have the file name and some other information about what my current situation is, but I'm just going to continue to go down the list. Here I'll choose some of the basic settings. So where's the paper going to come from on the printer? Is it a sheet, a roll? In this case, this printer has 2 rolls. I can do cut sheet, poster board. I can choose those things. There's going to be what media are using. Here's all the media available on this particular printer. And then the resolutions or the print modes, right? So the lower resolution, the faster you go, the higher the resolution, the higher the quality is. And then there's some more information down here. We have the input resolution, which you can usually leave alone, and some other settings that are specific to the printer, like an auto cut and such settings. So going down further, these are the layout settings, right? And this is where a software like Epson Edge Print can really help you get the most out of your printer layout. You're laying out one or more images, and in this case, maybe I want to do 3 copies of this image. Maybe I want them all scaled to 50%, and then I want to tighten up the layout to, let's go down here. I'm going to do a tight fit and hit this button here, and now it's set them as close as my settings will allow. Now I said the right and the bottom will have a certain margin. If I want to space those out a little bit, say I want to do 2 inches between copies and do that tight layout button again, it's going to fit it as close as it can. And I can rotate the image and I can do other things here.
So, really quick, easy tools there to help you save ink and paper whenever you're printing on whichever machine you're printing on.
Yeah, if you're moving from a kind of driver-based workflow to Epson Edge Print, previously you would have had to, maybe you're working in Photoshop and you would have to manually place and measure the spacing and all this. And this is just a quick way. These tools are powerful because they let you arrive at the same result, but a lot more quickly with a lot less effort.
And I like that it gives you options. You're not stuck with one shuffle option where it just does a single tighten, but you can actually go in and kind of customize it and choose, how you want it to tighten up, even giving the space in between and things like that. So having those different options right there at your fingertips is really kind of slick.
Yeah, I encourage you to, when you download this, play around with all these settings, see what they do. Some of them, you'll recognize some of these icons from other design software. I think they'll be pretty intuitive to you. Moving on to the color settings. This is if you are very specific about your color management, or you want to have a little more control over the color. This is where you can specify those settings. So as you know, you can load CMYK or RGB images into Epson Edge Print, and they can be TIFF or JPEG, PNG, PDFs. And here's where those settings for each of those file types can be, not file types, but color settings can be controlled. So what's my input profile for CMYK? What's my input profile for RGB and other color settings? These may also look familiar from design softwares like Photoshop or Acrobat. All right, and one of the next settings are the color replacement options. This is a tool that allows you to either select a named Pantone color found in the file or other spot color, it doesn't have to be Pantone, or use the eyedropper tool to go ahead and select the color. I'm going to select this yellow here. I see it come up in my list now, and I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to maybe take out the yellow and add in a little bit of magenta and turn it into a kind of orange. When I click away from it in the list, I get a preview of what that's going to be at time of print. A very cool tool here is to use the output color chart adjustment. So if I want to do a little exploration on what this color may be, I'm going to click this, and it gives me an option to see more patches or few patches, and what it's going to generate. I'm going to go just few because I'm going to make a small one. I'm going to do a few patches with just a normal amount of difference between patches. I'm going to add the job. Epson Edge Print is going to generate a new image with the same settings as the image we're working on now for you to print and look for the different color differences. That way you can print this out, visually check, hey, I like this one. And if I zoom in, you'll see that I have the recipes for the CMYK that I can type back into my spot color replacement.
So if you're looking for a specific color match, you can actually find the formula for the one that's the closest to what you're looking for.
That's right. Yeah, it's a very helpful tool, and I can do a larger one to see more colors at once. Depends on the size of the media you're working on, how big you want to make the chart. I can make
there your colors changed. I see as well. The one that you just selected, the yellow is now that orange.
Yeah, you'll see it in the preview after just a little bit of time.
Perfect.
This is a good place to note too that we have Epson has a spectrophotometer. It's the SD10 spectrophotometer that operates on its own and with a mobile app, but also can connect via Bluetooth or USB to Epson Edge Print. Now, if I wanted to, I don't have one connected currently, but I could connect to it and read in a color from the real world and use it as a spot color replacement in the same way that I, instead of manually editing the colors down here, I can do a color measurement from my spectrophotometer. And then you can go ahead and do the chart with the multiple colors, and it just helps you get to the color that you're looking for even more quickly.
Let's see. Now you've got mask. Is that your next one there?
This is the marks.
Oh, marks. You know what? I'm reading it small on the screen. Mark. So marks, is that your crop marks, things like that?
That's correct. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I have these three selected. I can go ahead and do some of the marks that you'd expect to find, trim marks, photoba marks, and some of the later versions of Epson Edge Print now support some GraphTech cutters. So the marks that you need necessary for a GraphTech roll-to-roll, a trimmer or cutter device can be generated as well. Which that's a newer feature that we're really excited to provide to people printing on vinyls, printing stickers or films, DT film output from our printers. It's really ups the game of this. That sounded stupid.
So when you're doing that and you're working with those third-party cutters, does it allow you to do like the cut path where it's following like contour cuts?
That's correct. Yep. So you will have had a cut path in the file already. Epson Edge Print will recognize that cut path and generate the instructions to send to the GraphTech.
So like you said, if you're doing stickers or something like that, you want those contour cuts on the stickers, great for that. If you're doing a t-shirt or something like that you're printing dye sublimation and you want it to be the shape and not have to put the whole page down, but just that shape down and transfer that over, you can do that as well. So all kinds of neat things you can do with that. That's really cool. Not a lot of softwares that have that built right in.
Even though this may seem like a entry-level software, it's got a lot of powerful tools, just like a lot of pro softwares out there.
Yeah, so a lot of bang for your buck, basically.
That's right. And then you can put other labels on the job too. You can type in comments and let it know what printers it came out of, or the file name. Anything you need to add to identify the print later, especially if you're outputting a lot of production, a lot of volume, and you need to pass it on downstream in your workflow. Make sure everyone knows what this is for and where it's going. And then next is the crop tool. So I'll zoom in a little bit here. I may not want to print this whole image. Let me enable the crop tool. And then now I have handles in the middle of the edges and the corners, and I can just kind of drag that down to where I want to crop.
Now, is this like in Photoshop where if you hold down the shift, it locks uh, the sizing of everything, or is that different from what you would see in Photoshop?
It is different. Holding shift won't have an effect on the ratio of the selection.
Okay.
Now, if you really want to dial it in, you want to make sure that your crop is a certain size. I can specify those numbers here. Now, if I switch the window, I'm going to go back to marks for a second. I'll see that this is my image now.
Oh, wow.
So it's cropped out, all three of them, and I may want to back up further, back to layout, if I want to tighten this up even more, right? So I can hit the arrangement button again that we had done previously, and now it's given that same 2 inches between. It's even rotated it to maximize your paper usage. If you don't want it to rotate, by the way, there's a tighten or rotation option.
Okay. I like that.
So let me go back down to crop. And if you no longer want to crop, you just turn it off here.
And then I'll return it back to normal on the main page then.
That's right.
There it is. Look at that. Okay.
And next, if you're printing maybe very large signage, this is going to be something that's even larger than the width of the printer. I can go ahead and slice this image up into different tiles, right? So when I enable this setting, I have a bunch more settings to set here. I can say I want to have, say, 4. I'm going to split this into 4 this way. And I'm not going to split it the other way. I'm going to keep those just coming out of the printer long, for example. And I'm going to give them a bit of an overlap. So currently, I can see that the overlap is 0.1 inches. Let's do to the right, 0.1 inches. Now that blue line is kind of showing where I'll be able to lay these over and everything will still line up. And it depends on your application, how much you may want to make this larger or dial it back.
Yeah, I see a lot of schools using this, especially when they have like certain athletics or certain events coming up, and they want to cover a wall in their hallway. They'll use like a peel and stick type adhesive,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll use this paneling feature so they can print it. And then because their machine maybe is only 24 inches wide, but they need to cover a 10-foot wall, so they can
Mm-hmm.
print 5 panels and have that overlap and have now a whole wall basically covered with whatever image they want. That's such a nice feature, and it's really easy. I love that you can actually see the guides for where the overlap is. Um, a lot of the softwares I've seen in the past did not have that guide, so you couldn't see where the overlap was going to fall. So that's really nice.
Yeah, it's a very easy to read interface. Again, intuitive. You kind of understand as you turn these options on and off what's going on and what you can expect at time of print. And I don't have to make any of these adjustments in the design software, the editing software. Epson Edge Print provides this very easily. You can see here now all my tiles. And of course I had split the image into 4, but I had 3 images, so all 3 have been split into 4.
Gotcha. So, and I guess you could just look at the sizing there if you want to see what it is. You've got
Yeah.
your ruler, so it shows each one. Looks like that output size is 2.285 by 94.109 inches. So it does show you the size for each panel.
The whole layout, this output size represents the entire layout.
Gotcha.
So all these images here will be result in a print that's 98 inches long.
Oh, okay. I understand.
I'm going to go turn the tiling off because I want to show the step and repeat. The tiling and the step and repeat cannot be used at the same time. So for step and repeat, this is often used in fashion textile or wallpapering or other backgrounds that is going to take a small image and fill a large space with it. So if I go ahead and enable step and repeat, I will be able to set how far across I want to repeat it. And then there's also options for offset. So for example, I'm gonna make this, let's make this 40 inches wide. And I'll zoom out a little more. And I want to do 2 yards of this, so 72 inches long. So the software quickly will repeat this one image over and over and over. And if I want to kind of start to offset them, I can go ahead and do that by a ratio or by inches. So I want to offset each one 5 inches. Now you can see they're kind of stair stepping across. Every 5 inches, they'll go down and over 5. In the fashion textile, you often have what they call half drop repeats. So half drop, I'm going to specify the ratio as a half drop, and the next row comes down. And of course, it may not make sense for this image, but in the fashion textile and others, it'll line up and it'll be seamless.
Yeah, I think you see that especially in a lot of children's clothing that are patterned with like animals or cartoons and things like that have that half drop in it where when it offsets, it actually lines up perfectly. So that you really do see that in the textile, and you also see it a lot in the step and repeats a lot in things like Hollywood premieres or social media step and repeats. Whenever you're at a game or an event or something like that, where you walk and you step in front of something and somebody takes your picture, and you'll see the logo of the event or the school or whatever in the background. So
That's
lots of places where things like this are great. I think you're seeing a lot of photographers at events set up step and repeats now with the client's logo or information in the background for social media call outs. So it's really nice to have something like this that makes that real simple and intuitive for you to be able to create.
And that way, you don't, in your design software, you don't have to do it manually. You don't have to be holding a very large file that has the repeat sort of built in. That's too much space and it's too redundant. Now,
Hmm.
I come from a fashion textile printing background and dye sublimation, and we use this feature all the time because our original files would be designed to move into a workflow just like this.
Perfect. Now, anything else in the software that we need to look at in terms of just the basics? I see at the top we've got your add, your next, your delete, your rip, your print, and your hold buttons
Yeah,
right across the top left.
there's a couple things we could take a look at here. First of all, I want to highlight nest. So let me remove the step and repeat from this job for
Okay.
now. And I'm also going to go back and remove the amount of copies to just one copy. So I've loaded a couple different images here, and I want to print them together. Currently, I would only be able to send these two as they are now, and one would come out after the other. But I don't want to waste all this media on the side here, so I'm going to highlight one, hold down Shift, and highlight the others. So in this case, just one more, but there may be others. And I have the nest button here along the top. This will place these now in a nested job, and you can see that they're under a new nested job. And I can do several of the other things that we already covered. I can go ahead and increase the copies, and you see how it's trying to fill the space the best it can. You can go
It's
and
automatically nesting, I see.
that's right. So the blue border on here is each of these are highlighted. But say
Hmm.
I just want to change the size of one of these, I can do so.
Uh,
Well, one of them,
one individual file because they're
yeah,
all linked, right? So if you change that file, but now you're changing just the logo and not the coffee mugs.
that's right.
Gotcha. Okay.
I want to reduce this one to just 2 while keeping the coffee mugs at 3. And then I could even add another image. So to maximize the use of your media, make sure you're kind of minimizing waste. The nesting job's here for you.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to waste money. They don't want to spend money and throw away paper and ink for no good reason. So that makes sense. That's good.
And then you can unnest them if you wanted to, take them back into individual jobs and handle them that way.
Okay.
Um, The other icons up here, I can delete jobs, of course. I can rip the jobs. So ripping the jobs is, first of all, rip raster image processing. I can essentially process the job without sending it to print, kind of get it ready to print later.
Mhm.
Otherwise, when I hit print or click print, it'll rip and then immediately send the job to the printer. Or if the printer is
Gotcha.
currently printing it, we'll queue it up.
So if you rip it and don't print, where is it storing that image in the meantime while it's
It'll
waiting
be
to be queued?
it'll be stored temporarily on the computer until it's
Okay,
printed.
gotcha. I guess everything else there is kind of self-explanatory. Anything else in this stage that we need to know before we move on to some of the questions?
Um, yeah, let's just touch a little bit on this menu up here.
Okay.
There's two things I would focus on, which are manage presets and preferences.
Hmm.
So, manage presets involves the settings for the printer. So these are the kind of base settings that come with the printer, and a couple additional ones that we've worked on. And I can go through here and I can copy them and edit the copies. You can't edit original, so if you do want to make changes to anything, go ahead and do a copy, and then you'll see that copy show up, and you can edit. And what you're editing are the print modes and the associated ICC profiles. That if you're introducing a new one, if you're a user that's making your own ICC profiles, you can place them here. You can also rename the media, rename the vendor to keep everything organized. And then the quick sets, these are kind of presets for when you load a file. So this one is by default, and it has such things as the layout presets and the paper media setting preset. So if I wanted to add a new one, just call it new preset. It'll present me with a lot of the settings that we just went over. You can even see the tabs here correspond to some of the settings that we've gone down on the side. So if I know I always want to print to roll to, and it's always going to be enhanced matte paper, I always want to print at 12 pass, I can use this preset. And then color settings too, everything, almost everything that we went over is here. And what that allows me to do is I can change the default preset. So if I wanted to make this one the default preset, every image I load will start with those settings.
Oh, cool. Right off the bat. Where are those presets stored if you were going to look for those presets? Do they need to just go right here where you are to find those presets, or is there another place that they're stored just during their normal workflow?
They're stored internally where the program puts them, but if you did need to exchange them with another PC operating Epson Edge Print, you can import and export these presets here.
Gotcha. But if you want to use the presets in your normal workflow, where would they find the preset to use?
Oh,
Just
I see.
right there.
Yeah. If when I'm adding a file, I'm going to select a new file, I
Hmm.
can go ahead and select the preset here.
Ah, okay, right there. I like
Yep.
that. Okay. So it's right from the beginning. You're jumping in with the preset intact already. So let's jump into some of the questions that were sent in. I know one of the questions that was asked was about the installation process, kind of how we go through to install the software so that we can start using it. Can you touch on that? And I know you've got some really great resources for helping out with that.
Yeah, I would like to highlight that in in the case when you received your printer and your copy of Epson Edge Print, in that DVD case, they provide a link to support.epson.net/EEP. So this is where you can download everything Edge Print related. And you can think of Edge Print in kind of two halves. There is the main installer, the main program itself, but the main program itself doesn't know anything about the individual printers. So after you've downloaded and installed this file, then you want to go through this list and find your model, select it, download and install that package as well. And then you will be able to install from inside of EdgePrint the instance of your printer and get printing.
Okay, so it's you can't just install the software and think you're ready to go. You actually have to go and get the driver basically for your printer. Okay.
Yeah, and in Epson EdgePrint, if I go to Tool and Preferences and I go to Add a Printer, and the printer is not showing up, it's because I haven't installed the package for that printer yet. So I'm not sure exactly which ones I have and haven't installed at this time, but if I go to register a printer and once this search process finishes, the model's not there, back out, close Edge Print, and go ahead and download and install the package for your specific model.
So this brings up the question then, which machines does EdgePrint work on? Which Epson printers can you use the software for?
Epson Edge Print works with just about every latest SureColor printer. There are some exceptions. The DTG printers have a separate software called Garment Creator and are not supported by Edge Print. But Edge Print otherwise ships and supports just about every current generation SureColor printer.
Now I know within the dye sublimation world, it's not available for the F170, but for the F570 and above, it is available, correct?
That's right. That's correct. Yeah, even though the SureColor F170 is part of our line, it's a different sort of printer and it's not supported by Epson Edge Print. And nor would you really need a lot of these layout features that we've talked about in such a small machine.
Yeah, I guess you probably don't need to nest things on an 8.5 by 14 or 8.5 by
You
11 sheet of
certainly
paper.
could, but yeah, the need is just not there. But when you move up to the 570, the F570, you're working with 24-inch rolls, and you really want to maximize that space.
Gotcha. So, what is the importance of keeping the software updated to avoid issues?
Well, we're always coming up with new features, and if you upgrade the main software, you'll be able to use all those new features. There's, of course, there's bug fixes over time and improvements. Make sure that when you do go and update the main program, and when you start EdgePrint, if there's an update available, it'll let you know. But when you update the main program, also check to make sure that the driver for your model, if it was updated or not. So I have the last update column, and sometimes if there was a new feature for the V7000 and in EdgePrint, EdgePrint will update, but also the V7000 driver will update. So make sure you get both of those.
Yeah, I guess one of the questions that was asked is a lot of stuff that you've already touched on. I'll kind of hit them, and if you feel like there's a different, more in-depth way of covering that, let me know. Somebody had asked, how do you tile? How do you change colors and settings? How do you print multiple jobs? And what about resizing images prior to printing? I know you touched on a lot of those, but I didn't know if you wanted to show anything more in depth than what we already covered for that. Tiling we just actually touched on at the very end there.
Well, if you have vector artwork, there's little reason to resize before printing because you could simply scale it up here in Epson Edge Print. If it's raster artwork like TIFFs or JPEGs, you're going to want to get your size closer to your final size just to make sure you're maintaining detail and you have control over that. The Epson, there's kind of two flavors of Epson Edge Print. One's older and it's simply called Epson Edge Print, uses PostScript 3 to process the images. The latest that's been out for a few years now and that ships with our printers is Epson Edge Print Pro, and that uses the Adobe PDF print engine, and it is exceptionally good at handling PDF files. So if you are preparing files for print, PDF is where I think you should start, whether it's from Photoshop or Illustrator or other design software. Give PDF a try. You're going to have a lot of success with PDF.
What other file support or file types does Epson Edge Print support?
The typical design files are image files of TIFF and JPEG, PNG. Those are all supported.
And color space makes no difference, as you touched on earlier. You can handle CMYK and RGB.
Yeah, and you can handle those settings in the color settings window. Make sure you have it dialed in. You may have an existing workflow where, everything has to be, let's see, US CMYK, US swap too. For some reason, that's your workflow. You can make sure that that's set here, or everything has to be Epson or RGB or sRGB for your RGB files, and you can set that here.
Eric, anything else we need to cover today? Anything else you want to make sure that we give people information to in terms of contact for help or other things that maybe we didn't touch on?
Well, I had mentioned the Epson SD10 spectrophotometer, which I can show you here.
Mm-hmm.
This little guy.
Oh, wow. That's tiny.
Yeah. It's battery powered with a built-in screen, portable. use it on your own to compare colors and get a delta E value. But like I said, it connects to Epson Edge Print and can help your workflow be more color accurate for spot color replacements. There's also an automated table that runs the SD10 called the Auto Chart Reader accessory, and that comes with an additional piece of software called Epson Edge Color. And these things together, this whole Epson solution for printing and color management, can help you create new media profiles, keep your printers printing consistently over time by doing verifications and calibrations. And that's all happens inside of Epson Edge Print.
Well, Eric, thank you. That's a ton of great information. And it sounds like you guys have the full workflow of everything you would need all in one place. How much is Epson Edge Print software?
It ships with just about every current generation printer. On its own, it is about 2,500.
But it comes free with the machines. So you're essentially getting a $2,500 value free with the printers that you purchase, correct?
That's correct.
So hard to beat that. It's a great value when you're buying a machine. I know that's one of the questions that I hear a lot around here is, man, I just bought this printer. Now I have to go out and spend, $2,000 or $3,000 on a piece of software just to run it. So having that value right there in the package really gives you just one more reason to make sure that when you're buying a printer, you're considering the Epson printers as your first source for your office space or your home office or whatever environment it is that you're printing. Eric, thanks so much for the help today. Thanks for answering the questions, and look forward to having you on again in the future.
My pleasure, Pete. Thank you so much.
If you guys have any questions about Epson Edge Print software or any of the Epson printers, feel free to reach out to us at 1-800-4LEXJET. And for any help with your printer or supply needs, check us out at lexjet.com.